preparing to go live.
Yeah, the meeting is live now. We're live. Okay. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad that you are here. Thank you so much. Um, Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Melissa Lambert, H.C. Good evening to you, and welcome to the Couple Circle Live Real Talk. Real love, real growth. We are so glad you decided to join us on tonight for what promises to be a powerful, transparent, and transformational experience. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Dr. Melissa Lambert, H.C. And I have the honor of guiding you through this evening journey with these wonderful couples and our amazing leader here with Mrs. Dr. White, you will hear more about. Tonight, the theme is real talk. Real love, real growth. It's about more than conversation. It's about connection. This space was created for couples to pause, reflect, and rediscover the foundation of their relationship, a foundation built on faith, communication, forgiveness, and intentional growth. As a couple, we know life brings challenges. But when we face them together, anchored in love and God's design, we don't just survive. We grow stronger. So throughout this evening, you will be hearing from these amazing couple. They're going to talk about real stories. We're going to have a little game as well. We're going to gain practical wisdom and receive tools that will help you build a relationship that stands firm through every season. So get comfortable, open your heart, and prepare to be inspired. So let's celebrate in love and action as we go into our in-depth conversation, real talk, real love, real growth. Now, please help me welcome the visionary host of this powerful experience, Dr. Bertha White, H.C. LCSW-C, the founder of Bertha Arise. Welcome, Dr. Bertha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melissa. You all, thank you for being patient. We had a bit of technical difficulties going on, but we are here. It's a blessing to even be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the chat so we can be sure to answer them. I know we're a little delayed getting started. So whether you're joining us from your living room or you're cozying up together on the couch on Zoom, I want you to just take a deep breath and touch each other on the hand gently, and reassure each other that everything is going to be okay. We're going to make it through this process. I'd like for you, if you would, as I'm saying my hellos and welcome, just enter a hello in the chat. Let us know where you're calling from. I keep saying calling. Let us know where you're chiming in from. I would appreciate it. And, as we start our process, consider one word that would describe the energy of your relationship. Let's just start there. One word that would describe the energy of your relationship, and then put that in the chat as well. So now, this space, the couple circle, is where we're going to learn, we're going to laugh, we're going to heal, and we're going to grow. This space is without judgment, and we're coming to connect. So as you leave your chats, feel free to say what it is that you need to say. We are coming with respect, and we are coming with some guidance, as much guidance as we can give. In addition, we're ready to hear what it is that you all have to say. So breathe. Everything's fine. So, we're going to start with tonight. Our hope is to explore what truly strengthens a relationship. We're going to keep it real. You're going to get some practical tips. And so we're hoping that everybody joins in so that it's quite interactive as we can make it, as we can have it to be. So get ready to share, get ready to reflect on all of the topics that we're going to be discussing. In addition, as Miss Melissa said, we're going to have a game. It's a couples game. It's called the How Well Do You Know Me game. So I hope you all have your pads and your pencils and your ink pens so we can go ahead and get started. Now our speakers are going to play this game with us as well. So speaking of our speakers, I want you to allow me to introduce Reverend Allen and Reverend Deborah Chambers. They've been married for 26 years. They live in Maryland. They have two adult children. That's two adult daughters, one adult son, multiple grandchildren, and great grandchildren. I asked them what they would consider their marital mantra to be. Now, for all those couples that are listening, think about that. What is your marital mantra? What kind of foundation are you standing on? So, Reverend Allen and Reverend Deb said that their marital mantra is the best way to stay married is to stay married. Write that down, y'all. The best way to stay married is to stay married. Next, we have Moses and Tennille. They've been together for 28 years and have been dedicated in their marriage for 25 years. They reside in North Carolina and they've taken tremendous pride in raising their three children: Zora, who's a sophomore in college, Langston, who's a sophomore in high school, and Gwendolyn, who's in the seventh grade, but she likes to say that she's a sophomore in middle school. So everybody's a sophomore. Their marital mantra is it's us over everything. It's us over everything. And then we have my husband Rodney and me. We've traveled through our marital journey for 36 years. I think in 10 days or so, it'll be 36 years. We reside in Maryland. We've raised two outstanding adult sons: Quincy, who's married with one child, and Malcolm, who's married with two children. We thought about this today, and our marital mantra is the evolution of us is steadfast because we choose to renew the contract. Okay, so think about that. Everybody think about that. Couples think about that. Write down what your marital mantra is. So now here's what's going to happen. We have four core topics of discussion. And then we're going to explore some questions, some answers. Please write your questions and all in the chat if you have anything to say so far. So let me tell you about these four topics of discussion. First, communication with clarity and compassion. Now, here we're going to explore, just how to communicate your thoughts and your feelings with while validating each other. Sometimes we get stuck trying to say what it is that we're trying to say, and the other partner is not quite listening. They're ready to attack. They're ready to jump in and they're ready to give their opinion. So, how do we communicate with clarity and compassion? That would be the first topic. Second, reigniting emotional and spiritual intimacy. Now, this is about going beyond what's on the surface, that surface connection. And we'll be talking about really, simple ways to rebuild our relationship and our closeness and friendship and, the soulful bond that we should have that a lot of folks are missing and don't even know they're missing it. Okay. And then the third topic we're going to discuss is rebuilding the foundation of trust and teamwork. Now, every strong relationship is built on um, reliability and honesty and partnership. So, tonight we're going to discuss how to reset those things, repair and rebuild the foundation when there is hurt or misunderstanding involved. All right. And then our fourth question is growing together through every season of life, because relationships do evolve. We do hit struggles. We shift. Family issues come up, and challenges arise, but love is supposed to be adaptable. And so we're going to dive into that as well. So let me take you back to number one. You're going to get to hear from our speakers. You let me know who wants to go first. I don't want to have to point anybody out. All right. Question number one: communication with clarity and compassion. So now we know this is about speaking honestly without any harm, listening deeply. So how do you do these things and and fight fair? How do you listen deeply? How do you avoid defending? How do you do those things when how do you fight fair? Because we're all going to run into a struggle. So how do you fight fair? All right. And make sure that your feelings are heard. How do you fight fairly and make sure that your feelings are heard? And you let me know if I need to slow down, if I lost you, if I need to repeat anything.
So I just
Okay.
add Mr. Rodney so I would like to hear what he has to go, then we can go through the chambers right after. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, fine. First. Okay, I'm good. Um, Fighting fair to me, it's all about consideration. Okay, when you're speaking, uh, and you really want your point to be understood, you need to consider the person's feelings or the person that you're speaking to, but still be very direct as much as possible so that the message does not get lost. Um, and that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, we all have the ability to have a sharp tongue. We all have the ability to hurt somebody, especially if they're connected to you emotionally. Um, but when you care about somebody in all facets of caring and loving for that person, you need to take in consideration your message that's being emitted. Be considerate of the other person as well, because it's easy to hurt somebody's feelings. It's all too easy to do that.
Mm-hmm. Let me add to that, babe. I was saying, in addition to, number one, respect the pause and the space. If there's going to be a conflict, it shouldn't be around the kids. You should have your designated spot where you go and you talk about difficult things to talk about. And, validating when you're talking about something, one of you are listening and the other is speaking, but the listener is supposed to be listening with seeking understanding. And when you're seeking understanding and you validate somebody, that's not I agree with you, that's just I heard you. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. um Fighting fair, in my opinion, is not pushing red buttons. You know what they are. You know what they are. You want to start a fight? Say that. That's a red button. So not pushing any red buttons really seems to help out. And sometimes we just simply have to work hard at it. Be respectful. Work hard at it and be respectful. And I believe that's how you fight fair when there's conflict and misunderstanding in a relationship. So I just wanted to add that too, babe. So now we're going to go to Pastor Pastor Deb and Reverend Allen. We're talking about how do you fight fair and make sure both of you are feeling heard, fighting fair and feeling heard. How do you accomplish that? And what are problems that you run into trying to accomplish that?
I think that part of fighting fair is that you have to always keep an understanding that your partner is not your enemy. The enemy is the enemy. Your partner is not your enemy. And so I think maintaining that mindset helps for communication to occur. Because if he's my enemy, I'm trying to defeat and kill, destroy my enemy. But my husband's not my enemy. So if I understand that, that'll take us a longer way in being able to have a disagreement without trying to wound and hurt one another.
Reverend Allen, do you want to add anything?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the basic premise of fighting fair is to stay on topic. You know, something in this current argument, caused the flare up. And sometimes we're arguing, we didn't went back 2, 3 years ago. When I met your mama, I know I shouldn't have married you. We were just talking about, who's gonna fix something downstairs, and you jumped off topic so you can gain more leverage in the argument. So if you stay on topic, and it's also spiritual growth. One time we were having what people like to call intense fellowship, right? We were, you can get to going at it. And I went in the other room to get myself together to come back for round 2. And God said to me, your wife is my daughter. So be careful. So, nothing like, that's his daughter. She might be my wife, but it's God's daughter. Now I can't fight with him about his daughter.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. Tennille and Moses, we're talking about how do you fight fair and make sure both of you are heard? How do you fight fair and make sure both of you are heard?
Thank you. I definitely agree with Reverend Chambers. I actually had that written on my paper, that it's important that you focus on the issue at hand. It becomes very difficult when you start to bring things into the argument or disagreement that really are not relevant to what we are discussing right now. So I think that's very important, that you always focus on what the topic is right now that we are having a disagreement about. I also believe that, within a marriage, you're vulnerable. You have shared things with your partner that maybe you have not shared with others in your life. And so no low blows, like, things about me, but I don't know if this is the time to bring that up in a disagreement. So I think it's always important that you stay above board in an argument, and not bring up those things that will hurt your partner, because ultimately, hopefully, that is not your goal, to hurt your partner. I had another thought and it just escaped me. But as Moses goes, it may come back to me and I'll chime back in.
Daniel and I met in the world of academia, and so we are in some ways bound to the idea of discussion. I don't like to use the term fight. We have discussions, and plus, I'm not a fighter, I'm a lover, so I struggle with the term of fight. Where I suggest that we start in those discussions is that we remind ourselves that love does not hurt. So if love does not hurt, there's no way you should say anything that's going to be hurtful. And then the second thing that I try to keep in mind is I work real hard to remove emotion. When emotion is involved in discussion, things are immediately clouded and become more difficult than they need to be.
Okay. So I have a couple questions. Moses, when you said that you work real hard to remove emotions in these discussions, explain to me how that's done, because we're talking, fight fair. And I know you said you don't like the word fight, but we'll call it conflict. We're talking, there is this disagreement, a misunderstanding. And so how do you take emotions out of that and just have a discussion?
Constantly checking myself, really, to be like, okay, before you say this, pause and ask yourself the question, why are you saying this? And what are your feelings in this moment? Right? And so, so that's where it really comes to. It's like, okay, remove the feeling, talk from the position of wisdom and knowledge rather than the feeling.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think some couples are going to run into a difficult time with that because the conflict might be about their feelings. And so then how do that's a struggle right there if you're trying to remove your feelings from the discussion, if the discussion or the disagreement is how I'm feeling about something.
It's back to what is the action that caused the feeling. Stay on that topic. What is the action? I know you're upset. What is the action that caused you to be upset? And let's talk about that action.
And it might soothe and calm the emotion attached to it.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Yeah. Okay, so I probably should have asked this question first. What role does vulnerability play in your communication style? Because, I think that may be a huge hurdle when you feel that you can't, be your imperfect self in front of your partner because, you're going to be judged, or whatever it is that you say, or whatever it is that you're talking about that you feel is not going to be received well. It's going to be judged, as an example. So, what role does vulnerability play in your communication style? Anyone want to start?
I'll try. Um, that's very difficult because for me in particular, for there are situations where you learn lessons not to be vulnerable, and that's where your feelings come in at, so you'd have to really be, what should I say? You really have to challenge yourself to allow yourself to communicate things that you normally wouldn't communicate because you might feel judged. Um, that's very, and then for a man is machoism in there too. Because you don't ever want, when you say vulnerable, to a lot of men it often seems like weak. You want to be, you need to be weak. And, from a man's point of view, and only mine point of view, uh, that's something that as a man, you never want to be seen as. But I want to say this though, oftentimes when you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, you tend to carry the weight of all the things that you have, that you want to get off your chest. So being vulnerable is a very difficult task for me. Speaking from a man's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Does vulnerability come with insecurities?
They may in some way, because again, we learn our lessons from our past. So if there was something that we did that we felt like we were being vulnerable about and it sort of crushed us, then that's going to take a different trip.
Okay. Reverend Allen?
Yes, I'm gonna echo on what Rodney said, is that men and women, for the most part, are socialized different through the stages of their life. When I grew up in the late 40s, early 50s, life was quite different. A humble, weak man was not accepted. So you, even among your peers, somebody got to rule this roost. When I grew up, if you couldn't fight, you were short. So now that serves for them because I remember when all this I think it happened with Bruce Willis. There was a show on TV where he was just a sensitive dude. People, man, what are you talking about, man? I don't know nothing about that. And so when you come into a relationship, see that might work okay when you aren't married. But once you bring somebody together and y'all gonna become one flesh, and so it's always as a man, I'm defending the castle, whether it's my house or my own private space castle. You know, I remember one time early, me and my wife was talking, and she grabbed both my arms and pinned them to the side of my butt. I said, "Oh no," there was a word in between there. Now I could care less. But see, at first you didn't pin me. Whoa, what's gonna happen next? And so, but like I say, now after years of marriage, and I understand she has my best, interest in hand. Good. Whatever she's doing, I have to give her the benefit of the doubt that it's for the benefit of both of us.
All right.
I,
Moses and Tamil. Oh,
Hmm.
Rodney, go ahead and follow up.
no, I'm just going to echo what Reverend Chambers said. Now, in my current age, I'm with you, Reverend. In my current age, that vulnerability is different because you and our, our relationship has changed over the years, where you not have only seen my vulnerabilities, okay, but you've heard me speak of them. And I agree with you, Reverend Chambers. The older you get, the more you're with this partner that you've been with forever, you tend to relax those vulnerabilities uh, um, with that partner that you're with. And vulnerability implies trust. In my opinion, it implies trust. So in my later years, I've had to learn how to trust my spouse with my feelings. With my day-to-day emotional, issues or whatever, because there's a relief in knowing that there's somebody that you can reach out and talk to and trust with that. So I'm just going to leave that there.
Okay. Moses and Tennille.
First, I would like to say that I think it's extremely unfortunate, the burden that has been placed on men, particularly Black men, and their inability to feel like it is okay, whether it's within a relationship or outside of a relationship, to show vulnerability. Having a young Black son, we try to show him that is okay, but we also recognize that he is going out, he's going with his friends. So how do you navigate that? And it just kind of hurts my heart that men are placed in that situation where it's very difficult to show that vulnerability. And so I just feel blessed as a female and as a woman that I think we have more grace when it comes to that. But in terms of a relationship and how vulnerability plays in your communication style, I think it really opens up a space for your communication to be authentic. Once you start to show that vulnerability, you open up and you show who you truly are, and it allows you to be authentic in that relationship. And so I think if you are just lucky enough to be in a relationship where you can truly be yourself and be vulnerable, then you just have to really be blessed when you can just be who you are in that relationship.
All right. Dr. Melissa, do you want to add anything at this point?
Well,
Because
No, I know that Dr. Pastor Chambers had
Pastor
wanted to
Chambers,
respond
you
as
had
well.
something? Okay, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Can't get my hand to raise.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think, one of the things that is challenging in this regard is expectations, right? Because we all bring different expectations of what the marriage is going to look like, what disagreement is going to look like, what resolution is going to look like, and even what compromise is going to look like, right? So we don't even know what the expectation for compromise is, right? Because that develops as your marriage develops. And I think expectations play a big part in causing us to continue to have such friction at times in our marriage because we're not meeting each other's expectations. Yeah. So.
And I think that's something that needs to be discussed early on. That at the dating stage is where communication styles and expectations and determining if someone is going to be vulnerable with you too soon or too late. Can they talk about what it is that they feel? Can they talk about what it is that they think? Even if you feel differently and you think differently, where's the balance? Okay. So now then
So
what
one
happens?
second, Dr. Bertha, I think you just added a lot to the conversation that
Oh,
Mr.
you want to
Rodney
process that? Go ahead.
and the Lewises jumped in. So let's hear what they have to say as we wind up this section.
Pastor, I agree about the expectations. But I'm gonna say my pushback is when you get married young, you know how to discuss and convey your expectations. I mean, if we got married at what, 21, 22?
22.
22,
Okay.
still kids,
22.
and we didn't even know. My expectation was, and just to be honest with you, that we gonna have a good time. We gonna be, rumbling in the bedroom a lot. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be dating a lot. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So forth and so on. So and I'm sure you've ministered to a lot of younger couples around our age when we got married. How do you tell them to convey their expectations? I mean, I had no idea where we was going to be at. We just landed here, and we worked on where we are now. But back then, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think that's why marriage counseling is so important, because we don't talk about that. We talk about all the fun, right? The rumbling and the mumbling and all of that. We talk about that, but we don't talk about expectations. And if you're going to be truthful about it, yes, we can share expectations. I expect you to cook a meal. I expect you to be home. I expect to, we can say all those things, but ultimately, the Bible tells us that our expectations ought to be in the Lord. Right.
Mhm.
So you have to balance all of those things. Yes, you have to have that upfront communication, but then at the end of the day, after I share what my expectations are in this marriage, I then have to release those expectations to the Lord, because nobody's going to be able to read your mind about what your expectations are. And I can't name all the scenarios about what I expect you to respond in a certain way. And so ultimately, I have to learn that my real expectations belong in the Lord. And I expect him to help you be the man that you're supposed to be, right? And you got to expect him, right? Otherwise, because we're just going to continually disappoint one another. Nobody can meet anybody's expectation. We're always going to fall short, right? So I don't know if you're catching the difference what I'm saying there, but
Yes, I do. Yes, I
expectations
do.
belong in the Lord. Share, your practical stuff, but then you got to release it to God.
I want to add to that too. I think some of the destruction of some relationships are unmet expectations.
Yeah.
Because of lack of communications. Go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, I want to chime in and say, one, I really like what you guys are saying. I could have this conversation for a long time. I am thankful that my wife brought up our 15-year-old son. I never wanted to have a son. I never wanted to bring a Black male into this world. And the reason for it was what my expectations for manhood was, right? And living counter to cultural expectations, especially for Black manhood. So I'm gonna share with you, I'm not gonna sing the song because I can't sing, but I wrote a song for my son that I would sing to him every day. And part of it said, he is smart, he is friendly, he is secure, and he cares. And when I shared it one time, like, man, that's your expectation for your son? One of my frat brothers pointed that out, like, really? And so then now I look at it from my son's perspective. Today's young people call that a simp in many ways, right? You raising your son to be a simp. So I'm gonna use some phrases that are not commonly used for Black men. Calm, tender, gentle, creative, loyal, a man of silence and peace. That runs counter to the way I was raised to be a Black man, which is back to why I didn't want, because I knew what the trouble was on that. And I didn't want to bring a young Black man into this world and have him faced with those expectations that we're kind of talking about today, that I think are unrealistic expectations for men, period. But especially for Black men. So yeah, I'm all about calm and creative and perspective.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Great point. So since we're talking about marriage and couples, I think we're still left with the challenges of those expectations of what we think a man should be, and the women are stuck with those expectations of what a wife should be. And when we try to bring all those together without the reality of what the expectation really is, I think those are the conflicts that we find in marriages, not only just in today's marriages, but marriages past and marriages, going on. And a lot of those expectations are built upon what our parents, had showed us, or our aunts and uncles had showed us. And that you try to bring all that together. For instance, my wife and I were raised completely different, completely different. Not to say that my household wasn't structured, but my wife's house, she had Saturday mornings, you wouldn't
Clean
leave the
up.
house till the house was cleaned from
That's
top
right.
to bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They had a cleaning roster, you know what I'm saying? Daryl, her brother got dishes this day, this week, she got it the next week. See, I didn't. And so they were, and then my father passed when I was 7. So the things that I learned about bringing into a marriage weren't necessarily in my face day to day. They were from distant relationships, i.e., my brother's relationships with his wives, my uncle's relationships with their wives, and so I had to piecemeal my expectations of what a husband's supposed to be, in a relationship, and not necessarily get it firsthand. So again, what Trey was saying, his expectations for his sons, and their daughters, your mothers, they have those same expectations for their daughters. And when they come together into a marriage, man, that unless it's managed, that could be a hell of a conflict.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna leave
I
that.
agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Bertha,
All right.
Reverend.
Yes. Oh,
So
go ahead,
Reverend,
Reverend.
here we go.
one of the things over the last probably 2 years, I took about a 6-month course in emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
which I quickly found out that women are good at and men suck at.
Mhm.
You know, and I have but with emotional intelligence as to what the environment is, what's going on, when to push, when to pull, and so that class was extremely helpful. And when I think back, and I go back what Rodney said, uh, when I grew up, here's the difference between men and women. When I ride down the street, fall off my bike, and scrape my knee, right? I go running to my mom. Oh, come on in, baby. She's a nurse, right? She puts some good. I go out back and tell my dad I scraped my knee. You know what he did? He grabbed some dirt. He said, rub dirt in it. You mentioned the gene effects. Well, just rub some dirt in it and go get back on the bike. Emotional intelligence. I'm hurting and crying. His solution is to gas some dirt and rub it over the blood. Okay. Emotional.
Yeah, initially it didn't hurt as bad. It hurts worse than it did initially, but for real though.
Yeah, but I would never let you know that because he's the man. I gotta.
Yep.
Well, I got to come in because so that means then when our son hurts himself and he's crying and there's, I'm trying to scrape him up. I'm trying to minister to him, and my husband wants to know what happened. What happened? Whatever happened? The boy's bleeding. Call the ambulance. I mean,
Mhm.
we talk about what happened later. But we have
Mhm.
two different responses to the emergency.
You got to fix. Men got to fix it. What happens so I can fix it?
Call 911.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, and Reverend Allen, you said that was an emotional intelligence class that you took.
Yeah.
All right, I hope our listeners are listening.
Oh, that's
Emotional intelligence
men.
class.
All men should take that course on emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I see. I
All
see
right,
my brother not there.
So
okay.
as we reset the room, just in case, people are just joining us, just want to remind you, we are here with these wonderful couples that are on today, and we're having the conversation. This is the couple circle, y'all, and we're talking real talk. We're talking real love. We're talking real growth. And you may hear something that um, may want you to think about your own relationship. That's the point. That's what we want you to do. We want you to see and hear yourself and these great speakers. They are too been married for years, and and they have had the experience, and they're willing to share. So pull up a seat, grab a pen and paper, write us in a comment what you want us to answer for you. And if you hear something that you say, you know what, I can relate, let us know. So as we move to the next segment, reunite emotional and spiritual intimacy, let's have that first conversation with that, Dr. Bertha.
Okay, so yes, our next core topic is reignite emotional and spiritual intimacy. And what we're talking about here is how to rebuild closeness, restore connection, and nurture the spiritual bond that keeps couples grounded and united. And a lot of couples just don't realize that they're missing that to begin with. So the question is, what does spiritual intimacy mean to you personally? And what would it be like um, in a thriving relationship? So, what does spiritual intimacy mean to you personally? And what is it like? What does it look like in a thriving relationship? And when I say spiritual, a lot of our listeners out there would not call it religious connection. They would call it a spiritual connection in some way. So, how would you describe that? And how do you keep it in a relationship or marriage that's thriving? Well, okay, so I'm going to give you an example of spiritual intimacy for Rodney and me. Not very long ago, we joined Calvert County Baptist Church. Now, prior to that, I was a friend of the church. And had given it great thought and was in deep prayer to determine if this was a place that I was supposed to go. And so I told Rodney about it. He'd been there volunteering before, but can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear me? Okay. So he'd been there volunteering before. So when we got there together, it was the time for me to join the church. And I had to stand there ready to move, but I wouldn't because I asked, "Are you ready?" And he said, "I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet." Okay. You got to give this some thought. We needed to be in the right church so that we could grow spiritually together. He said, "I'm not sure." And I respected that. We're still standing there, and I'm squeezing his hand, thinking, all right, I'm trying not to move. I'm trying not to move. I'm trying not to move. And then he said, "Are you sure you're ready?" I said, "Yes." "Are you ready?" He said, "Yes, I'm ready." And we joined the church together. And so that was an intimate moment for me, just standing there, waiting in that place, in that space, waiting for him so that we could move spiritually together. We could walk this walk together. So that's an example of what I think our spiritual connection was like. Now, I don't know if any of the listeners are church goers, and if you're a couple, do you go to church together, or is just one going and the other isn't going? And what that's like for you. How do you connect spiritually? Or does your spiritual connection mean something else for you? Okay. Rodney, do you have something that you want to add?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what you just said. So, and you don't know this, so is me being vulnerable right now. So weeks before, God had spoke to me and said, "Rodney, it's time to go to church. It's time to go back to church." Really. He had said, and I heard that, and I was like, "Am I really hearing what I'm supposed to be hearing?" And I don't know if you remember, though, it was like Friday, and I said, "We're going to church on Sunday.
Yes, you did.
We're going to church on Sunday." And then that Sunday came, and I was like, "Oh, I want to go back to sleep." But the Lord in me said, "No, you said you want to go to church. Let's start this journey."
Mhm.
And to me, my spirit needed it.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna say this, as God positioned me to be the head of the household, be the head, I sort of felt like it was my responsibility to take that step forward, you know, and to listen to his voice. And I sort of figured that that was the one thing that was maybe not, I'm not gonna say it wasn't present in our relationship, but I think it needed to be uh, re-certified. That's not re-fortified uh, in our relationship.
Mhm.
Because we've been going to church, often, but I sort of felt like this was the time. So I I sort of felt like you're dealing with your struggles, with whatever, and I know I'm dealing with my struggles with work and the challenges of raising, not raising. I'm sorry, mom, taking care of my mother. Um, and I sort of felt like we need to get our spiritual life together,
Mhm. It's
because the
hard to
devil,
take a spiritual posture when you don't know what that is. You don't know what
right,
that means. And just
right.
taking the first step, I think, was such an exciting and blessed move for us to do together in lockstep. So, does anyone else want to chime into what does spiritual intimacy mean to you personally, and how do you bring it to your relationship so that it thrives? Moses and Tennille?
I'm going to bring Pastor Deborah down. She just muted herself.
Okay.
Is it all right?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Well, shameless plug. They're members of our church. Amen. So I'm so honored and happy to have them. They are a blessing. And they what you're describing replicates what God wants for us. In the garden, Adam and Eve were they were both created in the image of God. He created man in the image of God, and he created woman in the image of God. A lot of people think woman was created in the image of Adam. No, she was created from a bone rib from Adam. But the Bible says that God said, I'm going to create man in my image. And then the Bible says, male and female, he created them in his image. And then he gave them the responsibility together to subdue the earth, to have dominion over the earth, and to rule the earth. God's original intention that we would be spiritually connected because we were made in the image of God. God is one. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, they are together. And he Jesus, before he went back to the cross, went back to glory, he said, Father, I pray that they would be one. And so his goal, his vision is that we are spiritually one, and out of that spiritual oneness, we subdue. We bring a face of God into everything that we do. And as a couple, that's what he wants us to replicate in the earth. He wants us to replicate himself, and from the perspective of what it looks like in the image of God. And so, what you're saying, Brother Rodney and Sister Bertha, is you all getting in alignment in a different way with what God has called you to do, called man to do from the beginning, to be spiritually connected, to be spiritually one. And then out of that oneness, listen, together we can conquer anything. If we are spiritually together, there's nothing that can conquer us. God says that in unity, he's going to command a blessing. And so a lot of us miss it because we try to find that unity and that oneness in the physical, in the relationship, in the finances, in success, and in the right house and the right car, right? If we just get all these pieces in order, we're going to be ready to take over the world. But if you're not together in oneness in the spirit, you still don't have what you lack. You're always going to need to add something else to it. Amen. So I think that it's really significant. So, for Reverend Allen and I think that that's probably the thing that got us together in the first place, was that we were on the same page when it came to God and his word. And it continues to be the strength and the glue that hold us. Had it not been for that, we would have been divorced We've been married 26 years ago. Had it not been for that, we'd have been divorced 26 years ago. But we had something. We were committed to something that was stronger than us, and so that has to continue to maintain prominence in our life.
Thank you
And
for
can I
that.
just add to this one conversation real quick? Because I love how God thinks. And sometimes we don't realize that God knows the heart of man before we even think it. What's the odds that couple of nights before on Friday, God laid it in the heart of Mr. White that it's time to go? Remember, it's God and then man and then the wife. He would not have done it in disorder. He would have never turned it around to be Dr. Bertha, then Rodney. No, 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 no. He spoke to the head of that house. So his heart was right. Even though Dr. Bertha wanted to move on that Sunday, the Spirit of God held her. Why? It was out of order. So he made sure that the order of that house heard his voice, hearkened to the voice of God, and then led his wife to the church. So that is the order of God. And when we go outside of the order of God, that's when we get what? Chaos, which is not of God. So I'm just like, I love to hear this because that's when you know that into the intimacy of man begin to work into the intimacy of God. Oh, y'all about to make me shout over here now. Okay, let me stop. Let me stop. Okay, come on now. I know we talked Reverend
Moses and Tanil. Moses and
okay,
Tanil.
we're gonna bring everybody in. Come on down. I'm gonna bring everybody in. Come on down.
Mhm. Do you want to chime in, Tanil?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Reverend
Wait a minute. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay,
Go ahead.
Reverend Allen, I'm so sorry. Go ahead,
That's
Reverend Allen.
okay. Tagging on to what my wife just said is we initially, when we first met, we sat and talked about the Bible over dinner about 3 or 4 hours, back and forth. How many people meet in a date? That's what they do. And then
That's rare.
one of the things that creates spiritual enemies, like I told you, God said, that's my daughter. But also, I think in Song of Solomon, it says, my sister, my spouse. She's not only my spouse, she's my sister in Christ. So I have to treat her like I would treat a sister in Christ, because that's what she is. You know, instead of just, well, you my wife. No, she's my sister in Christ. And the Bible says, can two walk together except they be agreed? You know, we got a common vision to show up at the judgment seat of Christ and hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for that. Tanil and Moses, do you want to chime in?
I will just be honest. I think, when I heard this question, when I read this question, it was probably one that I struggled with the most because I think that I am still working on my own spirituality. So to see how it plays a role in my marriage, it was tough. I mean, I think we both definitely are spiritual people and we have faith. I think we both believe that there is a power much higher than us that is in work because we have seen it move in our lives. But I will be the first to tell you that I am still a work in progress when it comes to my own spirituality. And so, just to be honest, I'm not sure if I have a really solid answer for that, but it has been, I think, very helpful and beneficial hearing what others have had to say regarding the issue.
Moses, do you want to add to that?
And honestly, I did not fully understand the question. Yeah, but I believe that God places us on earth individually and collectively to meet his needs. He doesn't place us on earth, in my belief, without equipping us. He equips us with certain gifts and talents. And I believe it's the responsibility of each partner in a relationship to empower each other fully to achieve the most of those gifts and talents.
Mhm. Okay, that
And
makes sense.
I love the fact that we have two different answers from this, because this is where people are. You have people that are in a marriage that may be a pastor, Deborah, and a pastor and a Reverend Allen, right? Or a Dr. Bertha or a Mr. Rodney, right? And you have a person that also is Tania Jones, right? And Moses Jones, right? So we want to be able to meet people where they are. And I love how we are explaining this intimacy aspect in relationship because there's always growth. There's always space for growth and there's always space for development and also to learn how we can grow in that area of intimacy.
Indeed, indeed. Okay. So then Moses.
Yeah,
Moses.
I just want to point out, we are Tennille and Moses Jones Lewis.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But that's also part of it because Jones is Tennille's maiden name originally. When we married, I changed my last name with hers.
Oh.
Because the idea of union and the me giving way to the we. And so the whole idea of our relationship has always been about the union of two together making one. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So then what do you think about this? Let's go with, how do you check in emotionally with each other when life gets busy? How do you do that? How do you maintain emotional intimacy by checking in with each other throughout the day, the busyness of the day? Or don't you do that? And is it effective or not?
I don't have a problem with making a phone call during the day. I might call you maybe twice a day. Now, what I've learned is not to text you during the day. Okay, because you don't respond to texts. So, I know a text is not going to get through. You'll see the text when I get home, and by that time I already had the answer. But my way is, for instance, on Wednesdays, I work out of state. So I leave the house at dark 30. For those of y'all don't know, that's very, very early in the morning to get to work on time. And so, my wife has a rule that I need to call her when I arrive at that location there. And so I try to do that. Sometimes I miss, but I try to do that. But I often I damn near make sure that I call when I'm leaving to come home. But even throughout the day, even if I'm not out of state, I'll pick up the call, pick up the phone call. How you doing? You doing okay? Okay. Well, this is what's going on with my day. My boss and I got into an argument today. Okay. Now she's a therapist, so she ain't gonna tell me about her clients, but my concern is always her mental health. So how are you doing? Well, I'm doing okay. All right. We check in and then that's it. Then I'll call on the way home from work.
And so let me add to that, when we talk about emotional connections, although I'm, doing what I do throughout the day, when you come home, I appreciate the 2-minute hug, y'all. Just melt it away. Don't say anything. Just let it relax for 2 whole minutes. I saw someone sent me something on, I guess it was Facebook, and there was a 20-second hug. Yeah, no, that's not enough. We go through some things during the day, and I want to reconnect with you. I want to feel reassured by your presence, by your touch. I want to embrace you. And so I want to add that to how we express our emotional intimacy to each other. Just remind yourself of what each other's touch feels like. And that doesn't have to be anything sexual at all. A hug. Okay, so Neil and Moses, you want to chime in, or should I go to
Can I just
Pastor
drop
Dan?
something in here? We have Manny on Facebook. We want to recognize Manny. I'm not sure whose platform, whose friend he is, but Manny want to say he had mentioned earlier, along with my parents, you both have given me the blueprint on what marriage union is. And then he mentioned my that your guys my inspiration. Then he also stated two different perspective, but both coming together. And when it comes to this question, he mentioned that every chance possible, he communicate with his spouse.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that, nephew. Thank you. So does anyone, Tennille and Moses?
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with quite a few of the things that you all had mentioned. Moses and I, we speak quite frequently during the day. I always say if my job ever checked my call log, they really want to know what business do I have with this man 3 and 4 times a day. But, you know, I think sometimes we are still very much like in a honeymoon stage at times, because you know, in the morning when I leave for work, I'll give him a kiss. We say, I love you. And by the time I get to work, it's like, I miss my husband. And so, you know, we will still call and, you know, what are you doing? Well, you know what I'm doing. You just saw me. But those type of check-ins are very helpful. But I do believe that sometimes they're just surface. And I will say for Moses, he knows when he sees me, something's not right. Like, what is going on? You know, like, tell me what you're thinking, because, you know, and you can go ahead and say, no, I'm good if you want. But he knows me well enough to know that there are times when it's just more than the, how are you doing? That there is something that has affected me in that particular day, whether it was on the job or whatever the case may be. And he just does a really, really good job of being able to settle me and calm me and pull it out sometimes, because in our relationship, he definitely is the communicator. And sometimes he has to drag things out of me kicking and screaming. Not that I want to hide anything. I just am not the communicator in the relationship. But I feel so grateful that he knows emotionally when there is something missing or something is going on. And so to your point, Bertha, those moments when, you know, he will just hold me in his arms, you know, and there's just something about being with a man who's taller than you, who's bigger than you, because you just feel engulfed in it. But there's just a level of security that you feel in that moment. You know, and oftentimes maybe words aren't even spoken, but you just feel just so secure in that moment. And it's like, the problem is not solved, but it's gonna be okay.
And let me add to that as well, Tennille, when you said that, you know, he can just tell. I think if you know your husband, your wife well enough, you can sense it. You can see it. It's in the eyes. It's in the way that you walk. It's in the way that you said, hey, I love you, or didn't say, I love you. You can tell. And you just definitely have to be connected to each other to see what somebody else may not see. You know? Yeah. Okay. Pastor Deb, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, talk about, you know, the love language, right? Because you're talking about physical touch, and that's great if that's your love language. But if that's not the way you receive love, you know, the best way that really speaks to you, your spouse should figure out what is your love language. Because hugging's great, but if my love language is acts of service and you laying around the house not doing nothing, we gonna have a hug, but we gonna have a problem too. So
That's so
you
true.
want to make sure that you ask the question, what do I need to do to make sure you feel loved, make sure you feel seen, make sure you feel appreciated? What's going to fill, we used to say, fill your love tank, right? And so I know what your spouse's way of feeling love is, and give them that, right?
That's significant. Yes. Yes.
Pastor Deborah, I'm glad that you even said that. You know, we really don't pay attention to the love languages. And if you know your love language of your spouse, you know how to cater to that individual in the way they want to be loved, appreciated, to be talked to. I hear, from Moses, he's a communicator. And maybe that's that's his strength. But is that his love language? Not because that's my strength. Like y'all know, I'm a talker, but my love language would not be communicating, right? So you have, not because that's my strength, doesn't mean that's my language that I want you to bring to me so I can feel loved and appreciated. So I love that you said that, Pastor Chambers, because again, we got to tap into that, because that makes it spice up the relationship a little bit, because now it's not a one-sided thing. We know each other's language, so we're going to adapt to that, and you will see like a spark in a relationship when you actually understand each other's languages. So let me stop from there. Go ahead,
Okay,
Dr.
because
Bertha.
let me chime in, and then we're going to go. I think we need to go back to Reverend Allen, if you
Yes,
want to
sir.
add
Yes,
something,
ma'am.
Reverend Allen. That it's important to understand that I can't push my love language on you and make you accept it as that. My love language might be it's something general, physical touch, and your love language might be acts of service. Okay, so you cleaned the dishes, but I need a hug. You swept the floor and everything, and you did the laundry and all of that, but we're not spending personal time together. And so, if you find that your love language is different, clarify that your love language is different, and then understand what it is that you can do differently, adjust just a little bit so that it is received as a love language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think people can have more than one love language.
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
You know, so, and I think, you know what? Here's this funny thing though. I think you and I have the same acts of service and physical touch. Yeah, because I see that how it manifests when I'm doing things, that you appreciate, and and the hugs that you give me. So yeah, I see multiple.
Reverend Allen?
Well, I affirm everything everybody said. When I said at the beginning, if the way to stay married is to stay married. So as we're 26 years in, it looks much different than when we were 1 year in. When we were 6 years in, 16 years, because not only do you just somewhat through osmosis in the spirit, you know that person. Even if they say there's nothing wrong, there's something wrong. And sometimes you can say, okay, and move, but you sometimes say, let me see, I got to draw this out because I need to know what's going on. This is my wife, you know. I remember one time our son was getting a little woofy with my wife, right? He's 18, 19. So I had to step to him. I said, your mother is my wife. Need I say more? And so you just know, to me, you just know. I mean, we're so much different people than we were years ago. Last year, because you just keep growing, and what I think you get is an appreciation of who I get appreciation who my wife is, an appreciation, not just a recognition, but an appreciation of what God has done in her life, and the fact that He would have her get together with me. I appreciate that. Of all the people in the world, what, close to 8 billion, I got it. God did it. So in other words, you just know. You just know.
You just
Some
know.
things are better cut than taught, right?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So then let me move to because Reverend Allen, you alluded to this just a little bit. what does success as a couple look like for you 10 years from now? And so we talked about, the transition that we go through, and we evolve and we learn and we make mistakes and we have setbacks and we have to, re-navigate and reposition ourselves all the way up to this point right here. And so then what does it look like 10 years beyond this point right here? Anybody?
Well, 10 years from now, now this is just my perspective, she may have a different one, would be that we're in Maui in a beach bungalow doing a radio broadcast.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to see us, here's the address. Because 10 years from now, we will be of age. So at some point, it says that in Ecclesiastes, a man should enjoy the fruits of his labor. I don't know if I want to labor right up to the casket closing. So 10 years from now, I'm sure it's gonna be great. But for me, a bungalow on Maui, eating seafood every day, every meal, and just my whole wardrobe will consist of some sweatpants and swimming trunks.
Pastor Deb, do you want to add to that?
Oh Lord, what would I add to that? Join our broadcast 1-800-Maui.
Yeah, there you go.
But if I look at marriage in decades, a marriage is like a person, right? You grow. When you're 1 year old, you can barely walk, and when you're 1 year old in your marriage, you can barely walk, right? But you grow. The years grow, and so I look at where we are now, and we're able to have a disagreement, and then still eat lunch together. So I feel like there's another level of that awaits us 10 years down the road, another level of acceptance and tolerance.
Yeah.
And I think it will be more of us less looking at the imperfections and more looking at the total package. I think that's one of the challenges of marriage, is that we are, especially in the early stages, we're so focused on the one thing over the imperfection. That's all we can see. All we can see is what they did wrong. We can't see any of the stuff that caused us to marry them. And I think that the longer you stay in marriage, the bigger your lens grows, and you see more than just the imperfection. You see more of the person. And so you're able to deal with the imperfection because you have a better perspective of the fullness of who that person is. And so I see in 10 years from now, me having, although I love my husband now and I thank God for him and all he brings to the table, my perspective is that in 10 years, I'm going to even have a more enhanced vision of the totality of who he is, and how much more awesome he's going to be in 10 years from now. That's what I think happens.
Excellent. Rodney, do you want to add anything?
Well, I want to see what you want to add.
All right, so my answer is similar in some ways to Reverend Allen's. I want to be on the beach too. Now, I know in 10 years, Rodney is probably going to be retired, but I could see myself on the beach having sessions. So I want to be on the beach, and I do recognize I'm probably going to be working a little bit longer. But, I'd like to spend more time with my family. And so in 10 years, I could see us developing something that we've not seen before. Even though our sons are adults, we still parent them, they're in a different way, but we still parent them. And we have grandchildren. They're younger, 3 to, 13, 12 or 13, plenty of life, Lord willing, ahead of them. I want to be a part of that. Nana has her position. and I want to be a part of that. We got to grow together. So that's where I see us in 10 years. I see Rodney still being Rodney in so many ways. He just becomes more powerful, better at it. You know, when somebody has these qualities that you know are the qualities, we want them to enhance on that. And then I always say, you know, quite a bit that I'm under reconstruction. And I know he is too. And so when I say the qualities grow, that is the ability to know where I got to grow so I can grow. I mean that as well. So in 10 years from now, I want to have that quality as well about myself. Know that I need to grow and I can still do it. I can still learn. I can still, you know, love. I can still be corrected. I can still is where I want to be in 10 years. Okay. Anybody up? Did we get everybody?
No, I want to chime in there. So for me in 10 years, if all goes well, we will be empty nesters. So we will have successfully gotten the children out of the house. And Moses and I were married 6 years before we had our first child. And I think during those 6 years, we were very much still learning each other. We were learning ourselves as individuals and as a couple together. We were still building financially, and just really trying to figure this thing called marriage out before we had children. And so, although we enjoyed that time together, I think in the next 10 years, when our children are out and we are now finding ourselves, you know, just the two of us again, that will really give us an opportunity to enjoy that wealth building that we have done over, you know, the past 25, 30 years, that getting to know each other as a couple in our relationship. And now we're able to fully take advantage of that. And so I am really looking forward to that time, you know, after we, using your term, Bertha, as we have reconstructed our marriage over 30 years, and now it's just us again. We are returning to, you know, what has gotten us together and kept us together over 30 years. And I'm just looking forward to enjoying that time and hopefully just enjoying our children and their independence.
Excellent. Excellent. So now, if you've ever experienced this, oh, Moses, did you have something you wanted to add? No? Okay. So now, if you ever experience this, how do you repair broken areas, strengthen partnerships, and, you know, rediscover, which is what Tennille was speaking of, rediscover what it means to show up for each other consistently. So, and we talked about this too, in some ways. What does love and companionship look like now, compared to what it used to look like? You know, we talked in great deal about what it looks like now compared to, you know, what you went through growing up, what it used to look like. And we're talking a lot about knowing that there is, first of all, a need to grow, knowing that you know very little at 20 years old. You know, I can remember, and I'm just going to expose this. We were, I don't know how old we were, living on Prospect, and I was the one that told my husband that I loved him first. I think we might have been in the 8th grade. What do I know about love? But I told him that. And I think I also told him that we were going to get married. Do I know about that either? You know? So I just want to go back to comparing that to where you are right now in that journey that you got to travel. You're not just, like Tennille said, getting to know who you are, but then you're getting to know a whole nother person. And then you're getting to know how y'all need to represent each other together. That's a whole situation right there. You know, so that travel all by itself can be bumpy, expensive. You know, you still got areas, paths that you still need to travel to make this thing, to put it on track and make it all almost right. So, again, what does love look like to you now compared to what you thought it was going to be growing up? Now, at this part, growing up, Rodney, you alluded to that early on in our conversation, how our families impacted where we are right now, how we loved, how we grew, what our setbacks were like, you know? So taking all of that into account, we're talking about, and we may have just exhausted it because we gave a whole lot on that one. We may have just exhausted that one. But for the folks that are listening, write down on your piece of paper, what does love look like to you now compared to what you thought it was going to look like when you were growing up? Okay.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack right there. But no, yeah. So I want to say this: love right now to me is patient, patience, patience, patience. You learn to develop the patience over the years, where at times I've recognized that, excuse me, the younger me was not so patient. And understanding. It was a one-way thought path, and that was it. And right now it's more patience with my spouse and more understanding.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? So does anyone want to share, when did you first realize your partner truly saw who you were? I know, right? You got to take a couple, take a couple seconds. Think. You have something, Trey?
I do. I first want to go back to the other question and answer it.
Okay.
For me, growing up in my family of origin and in my neighborhood, or young people will say my hood, love was a feeling. I thought love, so I can't tell you how many times I thought I was in love. You know, it was like, you cute, ooh, wait, yeah, you think I'm cute? I'm in love. I learned later that love is an action verb, not a feeling. Feelings come and go. When I started to learn that I needed to be willing and able to see my potential wife or that woman I was about to ask to dance, if I could see her the way I saw my mother and my sister, then maybe I was prepared for love. Because there wasn't, just growing up, I knew there wasn't anything I wouldn't do to defend and honor my mother and my sister. And when I saw a young woman that I felt the same way about, then I was ready for love. That meant I was able and willing to be vulnerable and prepared to do all the action verbs that are required for love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else? Dr. Melissa, do you want to add?
No, I don't want to add, but I definitely want us to see if we can kind of pause for a minute and kind of I would love to start one part of the game so we can kind of add some fun in there right now, just kind of break it up. If we can, do you mind if we just maybe do one game, one of the game, and then we can kind of break it back into a question? Is that possible? Can we break it up a little bit?
We can. Let's give everybody just a few minutes to get your pieces of paper or your dry erase board together
So
before we play.
So this
How
game is going to be just. Can you explain to the to those who are watching, what this game is about, and give them an example of what type of show we were watching back in the days that brings up this type of. I love the Newlywed Show, y'all. Listen,
I
I used
couldn't
to.
remember the name of it so many days ago. Tanil, I think it was you that reminded me of the name of it. So this game is called How Well Do You Know Me? Now, I
Mhm.
want you to understand that couples can play this game and you as an individual can play this game. Because sometimes we need to revisit who we really are. So, life is going on, and do you remember? Do you know your self-worth? Sometimes we got to check back in. Sometimes we got to check in. And you need this information, as you move forward and you're in relationships and you are in your marriage. Just remember this. Okay. So again, Everybody can participate in the questions. Just write your answer down. What the couples are going to do is we're going to write our own answers down, just like that old game called the Newlyweds. I'm going to ask a question and you'll get a couple seconds, one of those. Okay, you write down your answer and then we're going to compare our answers. I wish I had some prizes to give out, but I don't. Okay, so let's get ready. Are we ready? Everybody's got the material. Yeah. Okay, so now, how well do you know me? Number one, what was our first meal what was our meal on our first date? What was our first meal on our first date? I'm taking a guess because I don't know. Exactly. Okay. Few more seconds. What was your first meal on your first date? I know some of you go way back. Okay. We need any more time? Tanil, you're still thinking? Okay. All right. So, Rodney, you and I can go first. Okay. What was our first meal on our first date?
That's like 100 years ago, but I will say pizza.
I was going to say pizza, but I said C. Staples. That's this barbecue place in Youngstown, Ohio, y'all. C. Staples. Okay, that's what I was going to say. So -5 points for us.
Okay.
All right. Pastor Deb and Reverend Allen, what was your first meal on your first date? Let's see what you got.
Well, you can't see that, but I
Yeah, tell me
put
what it
we ate at B. Smith's in DC, and I don't know what the meal was, but I think we had bread pudding for dessert.
Okay, that's good. Reverend Allen, is that what you have?
Steak at B. Smith's.
Oh,
Okay. Wow.
excellent, excellent, excellent.
So we're gonna
All
get 5
right.
points for them. Good.
Okay. Tanil and Moses, what was your first meal on your first date?
I would first like to agree with Brother Rodney. You are asking me to pull from way back.
Way back.
We were even trying to figure out where our first date was. So all I could think of was probably the first meal that he cooked for me, which was steak and eggs before I was a vegetarian.
Okay.
That was breakfast.
Breakfast is a meal.
Okay. I lose. I say whatever the cafeteria, whatever the college cafeteria was serving that day.
That was the meal. Right, okay. Excellent, excellent. Let's do one more. Okay, what time? We got to keep up with the time. All right. Let's go to the next one. What was your partner's favorite cartoon growing up? What was your partner's favorite cartoon growing up? I have two. Oh, that was mine. I can't put that one on there. I got to do his. Okay. So what was your partner's favorite cartoon growing up? Couple more seconds. I hope everybody out there is playing along. Okay. All right. Tennille and Moses. You want to go first with this one?
Sure. You ready?
Mhm.
I put, I don't know if you can read it. The heck if I know.
Mm-mm.
All I got.
Okay.
I put question mark. I have no
Oh,
idea.
see, ain't nothing about that right. Okay, so wait a minute.
That's the same
Pastor,
answer.
it is actually though. I don't know and I don't know. It is the same. It is the
We
same
can give
answer.
them a half a point for the
Okay, Pastor Deb and Reverend Allen, can you share with us what was each other's favorite cartoon growing up?
So I took a guess and I said Yogi Bear is a cartoon, but then I have it's not a cartoon, but I feel like he would have liked Lone Ranger and Superman.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Uh-huh.
Might be good, yeah. Tonto, yeah.
Okay. Reverend Allen, what do you have? What was is she correct, first of all?
Yeah, the Lone Ranger and Superman would be in the ballpark, you know.
Okay, okay. And do you have anything for her?
Yeah, now it was a cartoon lately. Growing up is more of a TV show. I'd say Batman and or Underdog.
Uh-huh. Is that about
Batman.
right? Yes.
Batman.
Batman and then the Flintstones.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
okay,
Flintstones,
Batman.
Flintstones. Uh-huh.
But Batman for
Okay.
sure.
Very
That's
good.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So Rodney, let's see. What was your favorite cartoon growing up? I said Fat Albert. That was it? Fat Albert?
That was
Okay.
it.
Good, good, good.
That
So
was it.
we redeemed ourselves just a little bit.
Okay, so
What was my favorite
I had
cartoon?
Fat Albert down there too, but I erased it. Okay, but I couldn't even remember the name of it, but it's conjunction
Yep,
function.
and it wasn't even a cartoon, but do you remember the commercials that used to come on between? It was like the Schoolhouse Rock.
Right, that's what I was saying. Conjunction function. I just couldn't remember
Yep,
the
Yeah,
name.
that's in
junction.
Yeah,
What's your function?
yeah.
That one?
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes.
Yes,
Very
yes. That's what I
good.
got.
Yep, you got it.
Because you still
Okay,
sing that now.
anybody else? Do we want to move on or do we need more of a break? We want to do one
I
more?
think this was really good. One more is good.
One more is good. Okay. What is our favorite song?
Oh,
Happy Sunday.
Okay, so maybe we got different favorite songs. All right, so then what is his favorite song? What is her favorite song? Okay.
Mm.
Um, we need a few more minutes. Okay. Ready? All right. Who wants to go first? How well do you know your partner? What is your partner's favorite song?
okay,
Okay, I'll go first.
okay.
You want me to go first?
I don't know the name of the song, but it's our marriage song. It is by what? Tony Terry?
Yep, yep. You and I. Yes,
You and I.
yes.
Yeah.
You and
Okay,
I.
Tony
Uh-huh.
Terry.
And I said that yours was Magic Man.
Oh,
Oh yeah, Magic Man. Okay.
Uh-huh.
oh, okay. Well, we get 1 point because I put down always and forever.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Pastor Deb and Reverend Allen.
I don't know. I put down you're one in a million.
That's a good one.
Larry Graham. Yeah, that's good.
That's a good one.
I put down When Doves Cry or anything by Prince.
Oh,
Ding,
what?
ding, ding.
Prince.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So,
So we just get skipped?
see, I'm sorry, y'all. Oh, thank you.
Just
I'm
saying.
sorry. I know. Okay.
So we
Tennille,
went with the original question, which was, what is our favorite song? And
uh-huh.
so we went with well, this is what I
Oh,
went
Black
with. Oh,
Butterfly.
Black
Yeah.
Butterfly by Denise Williams.
Stay on it too.
Is there a significance?
That was our wedding song.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So then we can move on to the last two core topics of discussion. Last two. But
So
before
can
I
we
move on,
was the winner
Dr. Melissa, do you have questions in the chat?
though? No, there's no question in the chat, but can we
Oh,
just
did I,
say,
Moses? Did I
can
forget
you?
you?
No, ma'am. Can we say who the winner is? Let me just see if we had any, give me
Kelly?
1 second. Can you guys hear me okay? Let's see if anyone had anything to say in the Facebook group. Not really, but the winner of this, the game was the Chambers. And then second runner up was the Whites. Y'all got 10 points, 12.5. And then third runner up is the Jones Lewis. So congratulations, y'all. This
Very
was
nice,
a fun
very nice,
game.
very nice.
It took y'all
Very
all
nice.
the way back. I wanted us to do something that's all the way forward later on, but this was really good. Thank you so much.
Indeed, indeed. So now let's move back into it. Let's talk about rebuilding the foundation of trust and teamwork. You know, because we just went way back, and you know, if you go way back up to now, you know there were some cracks, there were some adjustments that needed to be made. So rebuilding the foundation of trust. Did we review how to rebuild the foundation of trust? Yes, I think we did. Okay, so now what about, oh, how about this? How do you define partnership? And what does equality mean in your relationship? How do you or would you define partnership? And what does equality mean in your relationship? So now we know that, you know, partnership is how we work together, and equality is how we honor each other while we're doing it. So partnership and equality. Does anybody want to go? Should I continue? Well, first, let me say, let's break it down to partnership first. Partnership does not always look 50-50. You know, we have our role to play. You want to make sure that you give all that you have in that role. It's just about in ways that you can rebuild your life or continue to build your life together. It's not always going to look equal. It's got to be meaningful. It's got to be putting you together. It can't be something that's pulling you apart. This partnership that we're talking about, it needs to be based on growth. It needs to be based on good decisions, collaborative works. You know, you can be different and still very compatible. And so we're talking about partnership, and we're talking about equality. I think in partnerships, both voices matter. Both opinions have weight. Both dreams deserve space. And both strengths contribute to the whole. Now we're talking about partnership. How would you define partnership? Anyone?
I can jump in there. So I definitely agree with some of the things that you mentioned, Bertha. When I think about partnership, at least the partnership that Moses and I have, one thing that comes to mind is that decisions are not made in a silo. We are in this together. It requires communication. And so, you know, unless they are minor decisions and we kind of over the years have had discussions on, what constitutes just a minor decision, similar to purchases. We know in our relationship, there's a cap on things that you can just purchase without discussion. And so that is kind of how we view communication in the partnership. Even with the children, we know we are partners in this. Sometimes the children will ask one of us, and I'm like, I got to talk to my partner about it.
Yes, yes.
Because we are in this together. And so that is very important, that the decisions that we make are together, particularly when we have minor children, that we are communicating what that looks like.
I think
And I
that is
don't-
important.
sorry.
Moses, you wanna-
Yeah, I've said before, we went into our relationship and we've maintained it this way as a mutual liability partnership, recognizing that money, everything is we're both equally liable.
You go down, we go down.
Yeah, that's it. And so even after 25 years, we still have budget meetings. Yeah, so it's all about, preparation for the future. Mutual liability.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Are we going to come back to the equity question?
Yeah, after we get through partnership. So Pastor Deb and Reverend Allen, how do you define partnership?
I think that it's not equal giving, it's equal effort. Because in a balanced partnership, we should all bring our best effort, right? But on some occasions, I may be the stronger one in that situation, and in some occasions, he is the stronger one. And I think you can't look at his strength as a challenge to me, right? He's there to make up what I may lack at that particular time, and vice versa. And so I think a partnership is one of mutual humility that that acknowledges everybody's effort. Yeah.
Reverend Allen, you want to add to that?
Yeah, a partnership, and of course, this is all in the context of a godly partnership. Worldly partnership is get all you can and can all you get, and then get out and start over again. But in a godly context and partnership, every decision should be made under this rubric, that every decision is a love decision, and it will be made to the benefit of everybody involved. Everybody is a winner. It's not, don't create win-lose situation. Everybody wins. And sometimes you got to negotiate your way through that. But again, if you love this person, it gets easier to do that. When you first, everybody got there, this is mine, that's yours. And if we ever leave, this is what you can take or pay for. That's gone. We're through with that. But I'm just saying, so now, every decision I make, it has to benefit her and vice versa. She has to be a beneficiary of every decision or that we make together.
Rodney, you were going to say something?
I agree with everybody in what they've all said. I think we've worked on our partnership for forever, and that's not a bad thing, but that means that we're still growing. But I think from the very essence of our marriage, even slightly before our marriage, with Quincy, we decided that we were going to be partners in raising our children. With Malcolm, when Malcolm came along, we became partners, in that. And I've always said that as far as our parenting is concerned, we're great partners on that. Now we've learned to grow through all those other facets of our relationship, to be where we are now. And again, you and I discussed, would the Army be a good choice for us before I joined the Army? and we decided that that would be the move that we would make. When we went overseas, and just like Reverend said, it was negotiations when we went to Germany because you didn't want to go to Germany. Okay, so we had to. There was some negotiations in there. Okay, you had to do your own research on Germany from other service members' spouses, and so our partnership has evolved. Because there are parts at the beginning, when we're immature that, it was you and then it was me. It was not we.
No, we.
you know, and our we has developed and became stronger over the years. I'm not gonna say it's at its strongest right now because we're still growing, but it's very strong right now. So yeah, we've worked on partnership to turn you and me into we. Um, and I like where we are right now as far as partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now that leads us right into equality. How does equality show up, in your relationship? We're talking about equality. And now what we know is that equality doesn't mean sameness. I think Pastor Deb brought that piece up too. It doesn't mean sameness. So how does equality in terms of mutual respect, shared decision making, we said that already, balanced power, okay? Respect for each other's individuality, fairness, and not control. Because I think a lot of couples run into that as an issue, you know, balancing or desiring control. Mm-hmm. I think that becomes an issue. So I think we hit those points, and then I'm hoping that all of our listeners have pulled something from that. Okay, just pulled a little bit of something from that. There is a way to show partnership, and there is a way to show equality in that partnership. That makes sense? Okay. Finally, grow together through every season of life. This is our final discussion topic. Grow together through every season of
Okay.
life.
I think
Yes.
Neil wanted to hit on the equity part.
Oh,
Before we
Tanil, I'm
conclude
sorry.
it.
Look, I'm trying to read and see, and Miss
Thank you,
Melissa, help
Rodney.
me
I,
out.
I was just gonna let it go. I just wanted to, yeah.
Don't let it go. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I was just gonna say, and I think Pastor Chambers had kind of mentioned it in her response to partnership, that equity is not always equal when you're in a relationship. I think it's just a matter of what the partner needs at that particular time, because we all know that you are not 100% every day. And
Right.
so, I am thankful that I have a partner. When I'm only 10%, he can step in and be that 80 that we need to keep our house functioning.
Mhm.
And I also think that there are things that each of us brought into our relationship that we have strengths in, and respecting those strengths and recognizing when it's like, you know what, I'm going to bow out because you have a strength in this particular area. And so you're going to take the lead, and that's what we're going to go with. But he's also in a position where he allows that for me as well. If there is something that I have a particular strength in, he is able to say, you know what, I'm going to let you handle that because that's your area of strength. And so I think that is what allows us to work well, just knowing that it's okay to pick up that slack when your partner needs it, and you're not pulling your scorecard out of your pocket every time something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anyone else? No? Now we're talking about, let's go back to grow together through every season of life. So now, I think we talked a little bit about this too. You navigate personal growth while maintaining the we relationship. Now, this is a little bit different. So we talked about having the freedom to do that, but what we do know already is that we are two individuals that come into this we. But how do you maintain your individual so you can positively pour into the we. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that difficult to do? So I'm asking, how do you navigate your own personal growth, maintain your own individual growth in your we relationship? Because we're growing differently, we're doing something different. I need something different than Rodney needs. How do I get my space to do my something different and then continue to pour into the we? I say quite often, you know, we're two individuals, we go into our relationship, but we don't stop being individuals at some point. You still have to nourish you so you can give your best to us. Anybody? Let me go on to the next question. Is that one too?
Yeah, I'm always about put it on paper. And we have family goals. And we have collective goals. And if it doesn't satisfy or help us to achieve the family goal, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, yeah, there's been many, I'll be honest, there's been many personal goals that I left and put away because it did not fit the we. Yeah, so there's been many times, many career opportunities and changes that I thought that I wanted, you know, when I was 25, that I had set written down when I was 30 and 32, and we evolved and I moved and let those go. Because again, it's about the we. Not me.
I want to add to that, Trey. I agree with the we. Every assignment that I ever had in the Army was made for the we. Really, coming when I was stationed at Fort Meade, we were 5 hours away from the house, and I know how close she was to her. She is to her family. Fort Meade was a great spot. Going to Germany, I knew that the assignment I was taking was going to be, have me travel, but we were going to be together, and we as a unit got an opportunity to explore Europe, which we never actually had that opportunity to do. And so on a return assignment back to the States, I want to come back to the DC, bring us back to the DC area. Because why? Because we're elite, we're not that far away from Ohio, and again, it sort of keeps us in touch with family in a whole different way versus if I would have got assigned to Texas. That means we'd have been having to fly back, or you all would have to fly down to see us, and financially that didn't work. I want to be a drill sergeant, and that definitely wouldn't have worked out because drill sergeants are away from their family a lot. You know what I'm saying? A whole lot. So, I mean, like there are certain endeavors that you just have to let go of. You have to weigh them, and see, what's beneficial, Yeah, I might be able to, climb up the ladder on this half, but, my family's sacrificing. In fact, I had a mentor of mine say, you know what, Sergeant White, it seems like you sacrifice career for family, because you could have been doing all this other stuff, but you want to keep the family together. Absolutely. Being deployed twice, being gone for a year, a couple of years. In fact, when I deployed the last time, we were separated for almost 2 years. Okay. That was difficult. So again, another decision had to be made. Do I stay at Fort Hood and keep y'all here? Or do I find an assignment here in the area that I may not want, but at least we're all together? So yes, I agree with you, Trey. There are times you just got to let those dreams dissipate.
Did anyone want to add anything? No, Moses? No? Okay. So then we're going to ask
I do.
one more.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting with my wife, we're on mute, and she's like, oh, that just seems so sad. And I'm like, no, it's not sad. again, it's about us over everything.
It is
I remember
about
a while back in our relationship, she had asked me, she said, do you think you would already be college president somewhere if you had not married me? I don't even think about that. Like no, I don't think about that because I am proud of the we. Man, I'm so proud of the we. So looking back, I'm like, I told her, I said, hell, I also thought I would have been retired from the NBA. And of course, I let go of that too.
that
Like,
happened.
man, it's about the we. Sorry.
Very good, very good, very good. Okay, so then I think our final question is going to be, in what ways do you protect your mental health while supporting each other? In what ways do you protect your mental health while supporting each other?
So what's your response to that, babe?
Oh, why you put me on blast? Okay, so I was thinking along the lines of, really, I'm just so keen on knowing when to just pause for a second, when things are a little off kilter, or when you just don't know what to say, or you just don't know how to express it, or you've been through something difficult, or there is this whatever it is that you're feeling so deeply. Sometimes you just have to pause and just step away before you try to express it. So I think because when you pause and you calm yourself and you collect your thoughts, then you can say what it is that you need to say, and it can be received easier. I think that's one way we could protect our mental health, is just to step back and pause and think about what we're getting ready to say before we say it, and think about what we're getting ready to do before we do it. That's one significant way that we can protect our mental health. Just putting ourselves in check for a second, I think really helps. So I'm asking, in what ways do you protect your mental health while supporting each other? Like that. Put yourself in check before you approach. Take a minute to consider the other side if you can. That's always helpful. That doesn't mean that it's going to change your opinion. It may and it may not, but it does change, and it should change the way that you approach, And I think when we talk about someone's mental health, we're talking about in general, the way they think, the way they feel, and how they respond. In general, that covers it. What you think, what you feel, the way you respond, and your spiritual aspects. Okay. So now those parts right there, how do you protect that? What steps do you take to preserve, this safe space? I can come to you being vulnerable. I can be insecure. I can communicate well with you. We can have these differences. We can connect and disconnect and reconnect spiritually and intimately. How do you protect that? Because it ain't always, we already said, it's not going to always be roses, and there are breakdowns. There are cracks, sometimes cracks in the foundation that we kind of got to reset. It takes a whole toll on all those connections, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So how do you protect it? What do you do? I think that was the question. In what ways do you protect your mental health while supporting each other?
I think intentionality is key. You have to be intentional. Reverend Allen talked earlier about emotional intelligence. And let's face it, when you have a conflict, the emotions are involved. And so it's easy for emotions to take over, especially, if you're tired already, or something else happened and something else happened and something else happened, and it's the last thing that doesn't happen. It can be. And so you have to be intentional. You have to be wise to recognize that this is a trick, this is a trap. This is not. This is gonna cost me more than it's worth.
Mhm.
And I remember my intentionality sometimes is I just have to go lock myself in the bathroom. I just have to, because I can't stop talking. So I just have to, and to protect the peace, I have to take myself out of the equation. Sometimes,
Mhm.
that's the best thing I can do is to take myself out. But it's about being intentional, and having that intelligence that says this is not going to be worth it.
Mhm.
I don't want to pay the price of the devastation if we keep on down this road.
Exactly. Okay. Rodney, did you have something that you wanted to say, Reverend Allen? Do you want to add? Moses and Tennille? Nothing? Okay. So we played much of the how well do you know me? I think we're going to just move on to any questions and answers. Any questions, any concerns? Just put it there in the chat. If you think that there's something that we didn't cover, let us know, speakers, if there's something that we didn't cover. Okay.
So I do have Manny who was in the chat. He mentioned in Facebook, social media paints a distant picture of what a relationship look like. Exactly why social media is a gift and a curse. But if you're around good examples, then it's good. And
Excellent.
especially I'm going to add to that, especially with this new AI, you don't know what people look like no more because they're using all these different, and that's why I try my best not to confuse my audience with the real Melissa than the AI Melissa, right? So that's also something. Yes, we want to look skinny and perked up and all that stuff, but you don't want to lose who the real you is either. And yes, you also may attract, as a married woman, a married man, attract the wrong person because they're thinking, oh wow, who's this, right? So I want to kind of throw this out there for you, as speakers. What is your take on this new social media, the social media aspect, where the future is going right now is the AI world, and we now creating the new image of looking different. And how can that play a big or a bad part in your relationship when you're doing something like that?
Mhm.
I will say, honestly, I'm not sure if it applies for me. One, I am just very confident in who I am and I know my self-worth. But the good thing is he affirms that regularly. And so, yes, he sees images on social media and folks on social media. But I feel confident that my husband loves who I am, without, he sees me with no filters,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
he rolls over in the morning, he sees, he sees it. And so, but, I just feel confident that is okay because, he is going to take me for who I am, without any filter, just me. So, that's just something I have not quite prescribed to. And I recognize that, you know, so many people send their representatives to social media,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
oftentimes only show the good parts of
Mhm.
themselves on social media, and very many people are transparent on social media. So if you find yourself constantly looking to social media for affirmation, you're going to find yourself constantly in a dark place.
I agree.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm gonna add to it. And for me, I'm just an old retired dude. I don't really care. I don't pay that much attention to it. Yeah, that's not part of my life, I guess.
But in all fairness, for a lot of folks, it is, you
Mhm.
know, especially those people moving into relationships.
Mhm.
Uh, that whole social media dating scene is a different beast,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
and it moves quickly. you know, and there's a lot of failures involved. So when we talk about, you know, how social media plays a role, it can be quite significant for some folks. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, you can be whomever you want to be on Facebook, and I can love you until I see you, until I interact with you. You know. Okay, good. Okay, Miss Melissa, I think that
Yes.
is about all we have.
Okay. Just all right.
Yes,
So I
I
want to
do
say
want to apologize to everyone for our struggle at the beginning. I hope you were able to see much of the couples circle. And if you have any questions, please leave some questions. So, Miss Melissa, take over.
thank you so much again, Dr. Bertha White, H.C.M.S.L. MSW. I got to say all the letters, y'all, because listen, this lady has owned that right, okay? LCSW-C. So thank you so much for all that you do and what you are doing within the community at large. But before I begin to start closing us in, I want to take this time to thank all speakers. And if you can just throw your plugins right now, tell us a little bit about, where can they find you on social media? I know that Pastor Chamber and Reverend Chambers do have their ministry live in person, and I also know that you also do live stream as well on social media. If you can throw that plug in as well. So if I can start with the Chambers, and then we can go to Mr. White, then we can go to Jones Dash Lewis, and then we can circle back out to Miss Bertha.
Okay.
Amen. Well, we invite you to join us at Calvert County Baptist Church. We actually have a special event coming up for couples on November 21st. We have a comedy and game night that we're going to be doing. So comedy is good. You can learn a lot through comedy. So that's our intention, that we learn some powerful lessons through comedy. So join us on the 21st. At Calvert County Baptist Church for our comedy night and game night for couples. You're going to learn something, I promise you. And then join us any Sunday, 10:30 a.m. service, and Bible study is every Tuesday night except for third Tuesdays. You can get all that information at ccbconline.org. And I'm on social media, Deborah J. Chambers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Reverend Chambers, do you have anything to add to that with any of your plugins?
No, I can be reached on the CCBC website, Reverend Alan K at ccbconline.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for your time and for your effort here. And I'm going to bring up for now the Jones Dash Lewis will be coming in, so we can there we go. And can you just share a little bit about your plugins and how people can follow you guys as well?
It's just Jones Lewis. But I will say we're just a simple little couple. We don't have, we're like, if you want to get with us, just call us on the phone. So
Awesome.
yeah, we're on Facebook. That's about it. But
we thank you so much again for just your insight of everything and this is not the first time we saw Mr. Moses. Mr. Moses was here before, and he always delivers every time he comes. So we truly appreciate you both.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just bring up now Mr. Rodney, and also I now will close in for Dr. Bertha will come back on as well. I will kind of go over what's next. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I've enjoyed this whole entire episode. Great job, babe. Great job, Melissa, on doing it. I'm like the Joneses. I don't have any plugins, but if you want to find me, you can find me through Bertha Rise. She can lead the way on that.
Awesome. Well, again, one of the things that I love about Dr. Bertha and what she's doing, she is a person that's in this field. The mental health field is a field that many of us I can say there's a lot of challenges where people are not plugging into their mental health. And I love what she's doing with Bertha Arise, which is outside the walls. Yes, that means if I'm in Florida, she can service me in knowledge, in her expertise, in her explanation of helping me on my own mental health path. And that's one of the things that I love about Bertha Arise. And one of the things that what I want her to continue to do is to expand in her reach in cities, in states, and also in countries. And one of the things that from this actual platform of speaking on marriage, Bertha Rice is going to be hosting a 6 weeks program. And I love this program. It's for couples, but it is limited though. First 6 couples come is who will start the program in January, but she will have a waiting list for the second class to come in. Why I think that she's doing this is because she wants to have that intimacy time. And she can literally open it up for 30, 40 clients, but I mean couples, but that's too much. And that's one thing I love. I'm going to share my screen briefly so you can kind of see. Give me 1 second. I may be looking to the right of me. I'm going to look to my right of me, but still it's okay. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm saying. Can you guys see me? See the actual?
Yes.
You see? Okay, good. So this is a 6 week program. Now I will have Dr. Bertha come on to kind of give some clarity real quick, but this is a 6 week program and it's a 90-minute virtual session. And this is a license, she's licensed in her rights in her state, but also because this is Bertha Rise, she is a consultant and an expert in this field. Bertha Rise Coaching Circle for Relationship is a transformative 6 week experience created to strengthen one, to restore two, and to reignite love, trust, and healthy communication with marriage. One of the things I remember Pastor Chambers said earlier, she said, she talked about counseling. I don't believe that we should ever stop going to someone to help us. We're not trying to say we're bringing a third party in. If they're educated and they're expert and a licensed therapist in that field, and they have that background in marital counseling, you should get that. So couples, this is a great opportunity to be a part of this program led by Dr. Bertha White, H.C. MSWLCSW-C. Those are all her credential, y'all. And she says it there so people can understand her highest level of educations, right? This circle offers a safe space for couples to do their work and to grow spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. So I'm going to stop and pause for a second because I want Dr. Bertha to kind of give some clarity on what the breakdown of each week's look like, because I want couples to understand the importance of sowing a seed into your marriage. And I say that like that way because we sow seeds in so many ways. We say we want to go out for dinner. We say we want to go on vacation. But what are we doing to help our marriage continue to thrive, to continue to grow, to continue to inspire each other, right? And I believe that this program that Dr. Bertha is putting together is going to really do that for couples. So I'm going to decrease and I'm going to ping Dr. Bertha to come up to just share briefly a little bit about the different breakdown of each week and what a person can expect. We do have the form that is a jot form that was created. I will kind of share that in a few seconds as well, so people can understand how they can go ahead and fill that out. So go ahead, Dr. Bertha, take it away.
Thank you so much. I am not going to hold you guys long. I just want to say that this is a way for us to familiarize ourselves with our partners, understand that we're not the only ones experiencing what we're experiencing, gain some knowledge from each other. Now, I'm going to say I don't know everything. I can be taught some information. And so, bring your knowledge, bring your experience, and let's talk about, how we go about understanding what love is supposed to be, how we treat each other, how we heal, how we partner, how we explore and give intimacy. So it is going to be a dynamic class that I'll be coaching. It's going to start in January. Dr. Melissa just told you that you can sign up. You can reserve your space. The jot form link is down at the bottom. If you have any questions, I'm going to give you my contact information. You can always reach out to me for clarity. But here's the description here of what we're going to be doing in this 6 weeks couples coaching session, teaching session. So I hope that explains it well enough. Be on the lookout for more information that I'll post as well on my Facebook page and on the website. And since I'm talking about it, let me go ahead and give you that. My Facebook page is at Bertha Arise. The email address for Bertha Arise is info@berthaarise.com. You can also reach me at Agent of Change Mental Health Services and Resources. The Facebook page for that is at Agent of Change, or you can email agentofchange@verizon.net and look for us on the web. We're at agentofchangeservices.com. Reach out. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to share with you as we continue to grow together, and thrive together. We rise together and we thrive together. And I can't thank you all enough for tuning in. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but this is going to run again so you can catch what you missed. All right, Miss Melissa?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let me just stop the share. I think my computer just froze, but I hope you guys can still hear me and see me okay. Perfect. So thank you again, Dr. Bertha. Thank you all speakers for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. I did post the form, the JAC form inside of the Facebook chat, so you can grab that. Share this information very soon. In a few days, you will receive a flyer from Dr. Bertha, which will give you all the information again, so you can pass it on. Not because you don't want to be, a part of it. Don't mean another couple won't, right? So share this information. Let's be our brother and sister keeper. Again, for each and every person that's been here and shared, this was a phenomenal. And we got to do this again. I think we should do this live so we can have the game nights. I think that was the best. So if we don't have anything else to say, thank you again for each and every speakers for joining Bertha Arise on this great experience. And so shall we rise as a couple to continue to grow, to continue to connect, and continue to love on each other. Until next time, everyone, take care, take charge, and continue to be great. Bye for now. Miss Bertha, you can actually stop your live on your end.